Good morning, students. In our previous class, we have studied about the weather and the climate. We also studied the different weather elements and the instrument through which they can be measured. We have also entered into the subtopics, that is the factors that affect the climate of the earth, in which we dealt with the distance from the sun and earth's tilt. In this slide, we are going to study about the change of the seasons on the earth and the reason why does it occur. This is the mind map where I am going to show you what are the different reasons of the change of the seasons. The first one reason, as I have written here, is the earth's tilt, and the second is the revolution of the earth round the sun. Now we will see that what are the reasons how the earth's tilt and the revolution causes a change of the seasons in the upcoming slides. Now, the changes of the seasons of the earth. We know that the axis about which the earth rotates around the sun is at an angle with the plane of its orbit around the sun. The angle that the earth's axis of rotation makes with the direction perpendicular to the plane of earth's orbit around the sun is called angle of inclination, and this is 23.5 degree, as we have seen in the previous slide. I have shown you one of the picture that shows that earth with its axis of rotation. The tilted angle was 23.5 degree. Now, the inclination would have been 0 if the earth's axis was perpendicular to the plane of its orbit around the sun. So it is this tilt in the earth axis as well as revolution of the earth around the sun that causes the occurrence of the seasons on this earth. We will understand it through the figure that I have given you in the next slide. Before that, one point I have discussed here about the length of the day. The length of the day is given by the differences in the times of the sunrise and the sunset. It is not the same throughout the year because the area of the earth's surface lit by the sun varies due to the earth's tilt and its position in its orbit around the sun. So again, the length of the day is also governed by the earth's tilt and its revolution around the sun. In the northern hemisphere, the longest day of the year is around 22nd June and the shortest day is around 22nd December. Now this is the figure about which I was talking. In this figure, we can say that from 21st March to 23rd September, the northern hemisphere is closer to the sun. So, it is hotter than the southern hemisphere, which is further away from the sun. The reverse happens in the next half of the orbit. As we can see in the figure, that on the 21st March there is spring in the northern hemisphere while autumn in the southern hemisphere. From 21st to 22nd December there is winter in the northern hemisphere and summer in the southern hemisphere. On 23rd September there is autumn in the northern hemisphere and spring in the southern hemisphere, and on 21st June, that is considered as the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere. There is summer in the northern hemisphere and winter in the southern hemisphere, and all these changes occurs because of the earth's tilt and the revolution of the earth around the sun. Now, we have discussed till here about the weather of the place and the factors that affect the climate of the earth as a whole. Now, we are going to discuss about the climate of a place. So, first of all, we should know what is the climate. On the earth, the climate of the place depends on many factors such as the distance from the equator, height above sea level, distance from the sea and the mountains, and so on. Before going to the factors that affect the climate of a place, we should know about the definition of the climate. That what do you mean by climate of a place? As I have told you in my first slide, that the characteristics pattern of weather element in a place over a period of time is called climate of a place, or we can say the average weather pattern taken over a long time, say 25 years, is called the climate of the place. Now here in this slide we first see the first factor, that is the distance from the equator, that is also known as the latitude. Places closer to the equator are warmer than the places closer to the poles. As we can see in the figure, on the equator the sun rays fall directly, due to which the places near to the equator are warmer than the places away from it. Now, for example, it is much warmer in India on an average, not taking into account exceptions like the high reaches of the Himalayas than the Greenland. This is because the sun rays fall directly on the equator and at angle of the poles. So, we can say that Earth's climate is extremely complex. Places at higher altitude are not always colder than places at lower altitude. That varies, but mostly the places closer to the equator are warmer than the places closer to it. Why? Because the sun rays fall directly on it. Now this is the slides that shows the second and third factors that affect the climate of a place, that is the distance from the sea and the height above the sea level. Places far away from the sea tend to have extreme climates with very hot summer and cold winter. It means the places that are away from the sea, that are very hot during the summer season and very cold during the winter season, means they are suffering from the extreme climates. There is no any moderate climate. But if you are seeing the factor, that is the height above the sea level, then the higher a place, the cooler it is. The sea has a moderate influence on the climate of a place. When we go the places that is above the sea level, it will be very cooler.